Have you ever wondered why some people generate an irresistible attraction when they speak? They don't shout. They don't beg for attention. They simply say the right words and everyone is hypnotized. That power can be yours today. Imagine being able to walk into any room and capture the attention of whoever you want. Imagine every word that comes out of your mouth being etched into the minds of others for hours, even days after you've spoken them. We're not talking about cheap manipulation, but about the true art of magnetic conversation, the kind that makes them think only of you when you're gone. 93% of people believe they're good conversationalists, but less than 5% truly know how to create a connection that lasts beyond the moment. The good news is that this isn't a talent you're born with. It's a skill that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. And today, we're going to break down exactly how to do it. Let's start with the first great truth that Neil Strauss discovered after years of studying human communication. Magnetic conversation doesn't begin with what you say, but with what you don't say. This seems contradictory, right? But think about it. Have you ever been with someone who talks non-stop, who fills every silence, who responds immediately to everything? Do you feel attracted to that person or just exhausted? The problem is that we've been conditioned to always be available, to respond instantly, to fill every conversational void. And it's precisely this excessive availability that kills any possibility of magnetism. Neil explains it perfectly. Mystery is attractive, certainty is predictable, and no one is attracted to the predictable. Think about the last conversation you had where you felt you needed to impress. You probably talked too much, responded too quickly, and in the end, left with the feeling that something didn't work. Why? Because when you're excessively available in a conversation, you give away all your power. Here's a simple exercise. The next time you're conversing with someone, mentally count to 3 before responding to any question. Just 3 seconds. It seems like a short time, but you'll be surprised how it changes the dynamic. Those 3 seconds create space, generate intrigue, and suddenly, your words carry more weight. Repeat this mantra before your next social interaction. My silence is my power. My words are valuable. I don't need to fill every space. Now that you understand the power of space in conversation, let's explore the second fundamental pillar of magnetic communication. The second big idea that will forever transform your conversations is what Neil Strauss calls the emotional mirror. Most people believe that to be interesting, they should talk about themselves, their achievements, their stories. Big mistake. True connection doesn't happen when they listen to you, but when they feel deeply heard. People won't remember exactly what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. This phrase from Neil summarizes the essence of magnetic conversation. It's not about being the smartest or the funniest. It's about being the emotional mirror that reflects and amplifies what the other person is experiencing. But how is this done in practice? The emotional mirror technique has 3 simple steps. First, you observe not just the words, but the emotion behind them. Second, you validate that emotion without judging it. And third, you expand that emotion through questions that deepen, not change the subject. Imagine someone tells you they've just been rejected for a promotion. The automatic response would be, "Don't worry, another opportunity will come along." But this response, although well-intentioned, cuts the connection because it minimizes their emotion. Instead, the emotional mirror would say, "It must be frustrating to feel that your effort wasn't recognized. What hurt the most about that rejection?" Do you notice the difference? The first response closes the conversation. The second opens it to a deeper level. Let's do a quick exercise. Think about the last time someone told you something important to them. Did you really listen with the intention to understand, or were you already preparing your response? Did you validate their emotional experience or just offer quick solutions? If you want people to think about you even when you're not present, you must become the only space where they feel truly seen. And this leads me directly to the third secret of magnetic conversation. The third big idea that will change your interactions forever is the concept of narrative tension. Neil Strauss discovered this by studying the best storytellers. The human mind is programmed to seek conclusions, to solve puzzles, to close open circuits. And it's precisely this tendency that you can use to create unforgettable conversations. Most people maintain linear and predictable conversations. They ask, they answer, they change the subject, and in the end there's a feeling of superficiality. But a magnetic conversation works like a great story. It has twists, it has mystery, it has tension that isn't immediately resolved. If you want to be fascinating, says Neil, never deliver everything in the first interaction. Leave something unresolved, something that makes the other person want to come back for more. Have you noticed how the best TV series always end each episode with something unresolved? That technique, applied to conversation, creates the same addictive effect. It's not about being artificially mysterious, but about understanding that gradual revelation is more powerful than initial total transparency. In practice, this means you shouldn't completely answer every question you're asked. If someone asks what you do, instead of giving the standard answer, you might say, "I'm currently working on a project that's changing how I see the industry, but before I talk about that, I'm interested in knowing what really passions you." Do you see what I just did? I offered something intriguing, but immediately redirected the attention. This creates an open circuit in the other person's mind. Part of their brain will continue wondering about that mysterious project while the conversation continues. Let's do a small exercise. Think of 3 interesting things about yourself that you normally don't share in a first conversation. Now imagine how you could partially mention each of them, creating curiosity without completely satisfying it. Practice these introductions until they feel natural. If you've made it this far, you already have 3 powerful tools to transform your conversations. But I need you to pay close attention now, because we're entering deeper territory. If you truly want to master the art of magnetic conversation, you need to understand and apply the 4th fundamental principle. And if you're enjoying this journey toward magnetic conversation, make sure to like this video right now and activate the notification bell, because what comes next will forever change the way other people perceive you. The 4th revolutionary idea that Neil Strauss discovered is what he calls the law of vulnerability reciprocity. This is possibly the most powerful and at the same time the most misunderstood technique in the art of conversation. Most of us wear social masks. We present polished versions of ourselves and avoid showing any cracks in our armor. The problem is that this artificial perfection creates distance, not connection. True magnetism arises when you dare to show something real, something vulnerable, something that breaks with the perfect image. Neil explains it this way: strategic vulnerability is the fastest shortcut to genuine connection. When you show yourself as authentically imperfect, you give permission to others to do the same. But here's the key: it's not about dumping all your problems and traumas in the first conversation. That would only generate discomfort. Strategic vulnerability consists of revealing small imperfections, doubts or fears that are relatable, that humanize the interaction. For example, instead of pretending you have all the answers in a work meeting, you might say, "This project excites me so much that I could barely sleep last night thinking about all the possibilities. Although I must confess that I'm also concerned about X aspect. Has anyone else felt something similar?" Do you notice what happens? By admitting both enthusiasm and concern, you create a space where others can share their own mixed emotions. And when someone opens up to you in this way, a bond is created that goes far beyond superficial conversation. The science behind this is fascinating. When we share something vulnerable with someone and that person responds with acceptance rather than judgment, our brain releases oxytocin, the hormone of trust and bonding. It's literally a chemical connection. Let's practice. Think of something that currently concerns you, something real but not excessively personal. Now formulate a way to express that concern that invites the other person to connect with you at that level. Don't look for immediate solutions, look for mutual recognition. This exercise might feel uncomfortable at first, but remember, growth always occurs outside the comfort zone. And speaking of comfort zones, it's time to explore the 5th and final pillar of magnetic conversation. This is possibly the most powerful of all, so get ready. The 5th and most transformative idea from Neil Strauss about magnetic communication is the principle of selective presence. This concept is so counterintuitive, that most people never discover it, and that's precisely why it makes the difference between a forgettable conversation and one that leaves an impression. In a world where everyone is constantly struggling for attention, where everyone wants to be heard and validated, there is extraordinary power in being selective with your attention. Neil expresses it with brutal clarity. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Don't waste it on those who don't value it. Selective presence doesn't mean being arrogant or indifferent. Quite the opposite. It means being so deeply present with someone that that person feels that, in that moment, they are the only one who exists for you. But, and here's the key, this intensity of presence must be earned, not indiscriminately given away. Think of it this way. When you're available to everyone all the time, your presence loses value. But when you're selective, when your full attention becomes something that must be earned, it transforms into a precious, even addictive experience. In practice, this means you must learn to modulate your level of presence in a conversation. With most people, you maintain a basic level of courtesy and attention. But when someone proves to be interesting, authentic, or particularly aligned with your values, then and only then do you offer them the gift of your total presence. How does this total presence manifest? Through sustained but not intimidating eye contact, through the elimination of all distractions, and yes, that includes your phone, through responses that demonstrate that you're not just listening to the words, but that you're capturing the emotions, intentions, and values behind them. Neil describes a fascinating exercise to develop this skill. It's called the 3 levels of listening. At the first level, you listen to the words. At the second level, you listen to the emotion behind the words. At the third level, you listen to what is not being said, the spaces between words, what the person wants to express but doesn't know how. Let's practice right now. In your next important conversation, challenge yourself to reach the 3rd level of listening. Don't be content with understanding the words or even the obvious emotions. Ask yourself, what is this person really trying to communicate? What deep need is hidden behind this seemingly casual conversation? When you master selective presence, something extraordinary happens. People don't just remember you, they miss you. They feel a void when you're not around. And this is not because you're especially fun or entertaining, but because with no one else do they experience that level of being truly seen and understood. This is the true core of magnetic conversation, the ability to create a space where the other person feels simultaneously safe to be vulnerable and stimulated to be their best version. This balance between comfort and challenge creates an addictive dynamic that makes them think about you constantly. And now, bringing together all these principles, the power of silence, the emotional mirror, narrative tension, strategic vulnerability, and selective presence, we have the complete formula for communication that not only attracts but transforms. Think about what your life would be like if every important conversation was an opportunity to create deep connections instead of superficial exchanges. Imagine being able to enter any social environment with the confidence that you can generate that magnetism that makes others naturally gravitate toward you. The truth is that most will never reach this level of conversational mastery, not because it's impossible, but because it requires something few are willing to give, the willingness to abandon old patterns, to feel temporarily uncomfortable, to consciously practice until the new becomes natural. Neil Strauss sums it up perfectly. Extraordinary communication isn't a talent. It's a decision followed by consistent practice. So now I ask you, are you willing to make that decision? Are you ready to transform your conversations from forgettable exchanges to magnetic experiences that make others think about you even when you're no longer present? If this message has resonated with you, if you feel it's time to elevate your communication to the next level, write in the comments, "I choose magnetism." Let's see how many here are truly committed to this transformation. And if you want to keep delving into these concepts, if you want more practical strategies to master not just conversation, but all dimensions of attraction and human connection, make sure to subscribe right now to this channel and activate the notification bell. Because this is just the beginning. True mastery comes with consistent practice and proper mentoring. and I'm here to accompany you every step of the way on this journey toward truly magnetic communication. Remember, the world belongs to those who know how to communicate, and you've just received the map to become one of them.